Okay, we are here with Thomas Kilpper in a very cold situation after a couple of beers, so it's gonna be probably an unusual interview with Thomas. Thomas is in Venice because we are working together at S.a.L.E Docks on building a new structure at S.a.L.E, a new mezzanine that Thomas kindly projected and ideated specifically for S.a.L.E. The project of this mezzanine is in collaboration, of course, with S.a.L.E Docks, but also with the collective of Re Biennale, and is made with recycled material from your installation at the Venice Biennale. So first of all, thank you very much, Thomas, especially for giving us this interview. It's kind of late night and it's cold, so really like a sincere thanks to you. We'll speak about the S.a.L.E project as probably the last question, but I want to start with the most common question that the people always ask you. There are some common features, of your work which come back quite often in your career as an artist, starting from the last 90s. There are some keywords, for example, woodcut, or the idea of inquiring into the story of the place, so a sort of site specificity, and this comes back in different projects. Really kind of very serious interview, so I wrote the title of some of your works here. So Don't Look Back Now in '98, The Ring in London 2000, Drawing Hercules. There are some features that come back. Why the woodcut, and why do you like to inquire into the story of the places?
Thanks for these complex questions. In the first place, it's not so much about woodcut in the traditional sense for me. It's more about to occupy an empty space. It's mostly when I made these floor cuts, as I called them, I get the opportunity to make an artwork in an empty site. And somehow the idea was to inscribe myself into this floor, and the floor is a very basic thing. Everybody, we live on the floor. So to do the piece not in the traditional sense, like just hanging at the wall, but that you can walk on the artwork, that was something which applies to me, and I appreciate very much in the very first place. So you have to imagine I got offered an empty space, quite big, and it had a wooden floor, and I wanted to work on the history, what happened there, because it was where I made Don't Look Back. It was a
We're talking about the Don't Look Back project in '98 near Frankfurt.
It was a place from the Nazis, the interrogation camp, where they interviewed all downed pilots from the Allied during the Second World War. And after that, the American army took over, and I thought somehow it applied to my personal biography, always being in a controversial discussion with my father, who was part of the army, not a very high rank officer, but just normal officer. And I always questioned, how could you do that, to be part of this army? And he, from his side, he wanted to hear, Tom, father, it's okay. I would have done it as well, like you. But I could not say that somehow. So it was a struggle, and there was this site, and I found it very interesting, and I got the offer to work there, and I like occupation in Germany. I was involved in movement and squatting. I had the feeling I wanted to take this place, and now I speak.
So I read in an interview of yours that
it's more like tattooing.
Yeah, okay.
It's rather than to really do woodcut in a traditional sense.
I see. I read in an interviews of yours that your first experiment in carving a wooden floor or a floor. It was really in a squatted apartment or squatted building that you were squatting for a while, and then it was demolished. So it was a kind of also, I think, a gesture of reappropriation of the space that was yours.
Exactly. Exactly. It was the former military mission of the Soviet Union in Frankfurt, and I learned it's going to be knocked down, and I just carried out for some nights carvings in the parquet, lovely parquet, and of course you destroy with a chainsaw and whatever. And I did not ask for permission because I knew they are going to demolish, to destroy the house. So, but at a weekend, on Sunday, the guy who is doing the demolition work came and he saw, my God, you're destroying my floor. You have to pay. It's really a joke, but he was quite serious, and I had to print one night, and then the next day the machine, the Caterpillar, came, and they just really they destroyed everything. It was.
Is the printing
first test?
Is the printing of your woodcuts something that really relies on the idea of saving the work that in some way is going to be lost, or what is the reason of your practice of printing these woodcuts that comes back even very often in your practice?
That's a good question. Maybe it has to do with the notion of that printing in mankind's history and art history and social history was quite important in the medieval for multiplying ideas. And in my case, it's you don't do a painting like it's unique to make a stamp and you can print several times. It's applying to the idea of as well, distribute your ideas. But on the other side, it's so big. If you have a woodcut, a plate, a template, like almost 250 square meter, it's not so easy just to multiply your prints. So it's somehow contradictional in my work, but I accept to have it like this contradiction, and it's still to be found out.
Still to be found out, right? The next question is already that we already saw from the first words that you say. Your life, it has been a kind of rooted in politics. And this is something about your biography. You're talking about the fact that you've been involved in the squatty movement, about the fact that your very first kind of well-known work, it has something to do with the history of your father. So do you see yourself in this kind of, I don't know if to call it tradition of German artists confronting with the memory of the Third Reich? And of course the most well-known example is that of Gerhard Richter and his pictures dressed up as a Nazi. Do you see your work in this German tradition after Second World War? I'm asking for
a generation of artists that somehow is the last generation that the father was part of the army. So the artists who are younger than me, it was the grandfather who was fighting in the army. And maybe this somehow comes into play, that I had the struggle not with my grandfather, because it's different if you fight with your grandfather.
Of course.
It's not mostly it's not fighting, it's more the grandfather is like an uncle and the father is more close to you. And the contradiction for me to wish to have a father who resists fascism was very big and was disappointed, but on the other side you want to love your father. So being in this contradictional relationship, I think was quite constitutional for me, and it comes into play in my artwork, I think.